So for today's video, I'm going to be looking at the Ten of Cups, and it's a great card. There are two big, really important sides to it. So I want to make sure that I focus on both of those things. But let's look at the RWS card here, and we can see that there is a couple that is looking at a home. They're looking at some cups up in a rainbow, and it looks like a very happy scene. There's some kids dancing around. And, you know, when I look at the couples there, it could mean a relationship. It could mean a relationship between two people, but it could also mean a relationship with the energy within yourself, the yin and yang of our inner selves. And I think that oftentimes maybe we look at this card and we might think that happiness might mean a great relationship. Yes, you can get a lot of joy and a lot of great feelings from a great relationship, but you also have to remember that energetically, happiness is something that is internal and something that can spring forth from within, and that going out and materializing in the outer world. So as within, as without, and that energy can affect the things around us. So we can create things in our environment based on our internal state. And it can be an illusion to look at certain things. You know, you have this house in the background. Does having material possessions, the external possessions, does that necessarily mean that that's something stable and it's something that we can rely on? The illusions are things that we can't rely on. So the illusions are things that can be changing over a long period of time or change over a short period of time, depending on what happens in our circumstances. And so we always have to understand that this card, depending on how we look at it, can be subject to the world around us. So I want to take a look at the Thoth system because I think that the RWS system is great, and I'm not trying to downplay it in any way. I love the RWS system because it really does give a great visual representation of what this card can mean. But I do see it as a bit one-sided when it comes to the true overall picture of some of the things that are incorporated in this card. And I'm going to talk about what I mean by that, because I think it's really important that we understand the energy of this card when we look at it from an alchemical level and from an astrological level, when we look at the associations of it. So if we look at the Thoth system, now I'm going to be looking at the Tabula Mundi, which is based on the Thoth system, and we look at the Ten of Cups there, we can see that the cups are made of opium poppy seeds or poppy plants. And we know that that's where we get opiates from, which they give you a great mood. They are a mimic of the endorphins that our body naturally releases. They allow us to have that state of joy, that state of happiness in an artificial way. And then it wears off and that illusion goes away. Now, I love that they use that on this card because this card really does embody the energy of looking at happiness and joy in different ways. Now, the card doesn't say happiness, it says satiety, which means fullness. And of course, being full and being happy are two different things, and it makes that distinction. Now, at the top of the card, we have a griffin, and a griffin is a symbol of, it's a warlike symbol. And so that the reason why it's there is because this card is the energy of, if we look here, we can see it's the energy of Mars and of Pisces. So we have two things here. We have a watery image because this is a cup, a card that deals with emotions, but we also have that fire energy of Mars being represented here as well. And this griffin appears in several other cards, and in particular, it appears in the Lover's card. Now, the Lover's card is also about balancing energy, opposite energies or polarities coming together. And when those polarities unite, it creates a sense of completeness, a sense of wholeness. And that right there brings some value and it brings some solidity to our experience in this realm. And I think that it's important to understand that opposites necessarily are not bad when we look at them at extremes, but when we bring them together, they actually form something very beautiful. A union that is something that sustains us, something that keeps us moving forward and really does give us that desire and that passion about this life. If we look at the RWS card, the rooftop there, looking at it, is red. Red is a color of passion, of desire, of motivation. And we really do have to have that balanced internal state in order to really fuel that passion, that desire for life. Otherwise, life can be a very challenging and cold thing. Now, we also see the Griffin on the art card in the Thoth system, or this is also the Temperance card in the RWS system, which is the blending, or the Thoth system calls it the coagulant, or the coagulation, the coming together of energy. And you mix that in an artistic way. And that's why the card is called art. And you can see that the person on the card has components of both the Lover's card mixed together in one. So if you look at the Lover's card, you have two individuals there, but they become one here in the art card. And you can see pieces of each one joined together. And you can also see that the colors of the Griffin and of the lion on the opposite side have switched. And so they have blended together several different energies and formed that union. And that is the key, I think, to really what you need to focus on when we're talking about happiness. Now, I don't claim to know the answer to all things or to have the right pursuit of what you want to have as your internal state, or whether you want to explore material possessions for happiness. I think everyone has that challenge to make. But I think that if you look at the RWS system and you approach it in this way, there are lessons to be learned. And so I want to read something from Aleister Crowley about this card, and it may clarify some things. And so I'll go ahead and read the quote here now. It says, "As it is written, until a dart strike through his liver, the pursuit of pleasure has been crowned with perfect success, and constantly it is discovered that, having gotten everything that one wanted, one did not want it after all. Now one must pay." So there is something to that quote about the pursuit of your desires, the pursuit of success. So I want to show you another card from the 78 Tarot Ecological. And it has these otters on it, and there's a river going through, and they seem really happy. But if you look at the back and you look all the way towards that tree in the back, there is a bunch of toxic just chemicals going down the river headed towards their home. Now, they don't have any control over that, and hopefully, they have those butterflies there representing transformation and change that can come into this situation, and we can actually help these animals by changing our actions. But they're not really in control of that. There are some elements that have to happen outside of the realm of their control. The joy that someone can bring, the joy that people can bring, it's not really fair. You don't really have a lot of control over those circumstances in all cases. People are flexible in their thoughts and their beliefs, and they have their own journey to take. And to rely on them and to try to mold them into a source of your happiness can be detrimental and damaging to both you and the other person. And so I think that message is embedded in that card in a sense, but it also gives us a reminder that yes, it's okay to have love and to really feel that joy from your family. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a part of the human experience and it's natural. And so it's that balance of the RWS and the Thoth system that I think is beautifully displayed in that card. So let's move on here and let's look at the Science Tarot. And the Science Tarot says evolution. And so it's all about evolving on your path, evolving on your journey. And you're going to evolve either way, whether you go inward and evolve from connecting to that true source, or whether you go outward and realize that that is not the source of your happiness. It will transform you, whether you understand that or not. The universe is about expansion. The universe is about exploring, and the universe is about learning. And I love how on the Tarot of Physics, it shows that, and it says expansion. And it's about going from that single point and going out and finding your way, discovering what is real for you, right? Looking backwards at that point and realizing that you are the source of that, or expanding and looking outward and seeing all the beauty around you and learning that even though it appears separate, it is not, but that you already have everything that you need within you anyway, and that internal connection. Now, I want to switch here to talk about the element that represents this card. And the element that represents this card is the element Mercury. So Mercury, and this is from the Materia Prima deck, looks like this. And so it's element number 80 on the periodic table. And if you haven't watched my videos before, what I usually do is I go through the periodic table and I pick a card that corresponds to the actual element in a particular order. So I don't skip order, I just go in the order that it is. So this is number 80, which lines up with the 80th card here that I'm on, which is the 10 of Cups. We often call Mercury Quicksilver, and it got that name from the Greek root of it, which is hydragyrum, which means liquid silver. So they thought that it was silver, but it really wasn't silver. It was just something different, and it moved differently from silver. And yeah, Mercury is like that. Mercury is the only metal that is in liquid form at the standard temperature of the elements on the periodic table. And so it's very different, but it's changing. If you look at Mercury and you ever play with Mercury, or see it on a table or something like that in an experiment, you'll see that it just kind of transforms and moves and flows. Now, you don't want to touch Mercury, or you don't want to ingest it or breathe it in, because Mercury's very toxic. And so all that glitters, all that shiny is not always gold. It's not always the best thing for you. Now, a long time ago, we thought that Mercury was this wonderful healing type of chemical, and people used it in all kinds of holistic types of ways to try to heal themselves. In different cultures, it was really elevated to a state of something that was very healing. And it was also used in the dental industry, and still is to a certain extent. But you do have to be careful with it, because there is this illusion involved with Mercury. There is this double side to Mercury's energy. And so now the actual Mercury, the god, the Roman deity there, is a god of finances, a god of commerce, a god of luxury and pleasure. And that's great, but he's also, in a major part of what this deity is a trickster. And he's a god of luck, both good luck and bad luck. But he's also a god of deceit and deception and illusion as well. And so it is tricky. And I love on the Alice Tarot how, I don't have this deck, but I'll put an image of it up. I was doing some research and I saw this, how it actually has the Mad Hatter on the 10 of Cups, and she's at the tea party there. And Alice is interacting there at the tea party, and everything seems really weird. And it's interesting the Mad Hatters on there, because Mad Hatters, that term actually comes from an actual event. Hatters, people who used to make hats and design hats a long time ago, were using certain chemicals. And in the process, one of the vapors that was coming up from that actual process was mercury vapors. And it was making them mad. It was driving them insane. So they were doing a great thing, and it was just this little bit of a trick to the process that was causing them to really lose it. And so what is the point of all this? What am I trying to say here? How does Mercury tie into this whole scenario? Yes, there are things that are great, that are beautiful, that could bring us success, that could make us feel great. But you always want to look at the details of these things and realize that they are not the source. The source is from within. And we talked about that in the 9 of Cups. If you go back and watch my 9 of Cups video, that keeps coming up over and over again. The other way to look at it would be looking at the external sources, all the cups around the guy, surrounding him in the 9 of Cups. If he takes that and internalizes that as a source of happiness, he will proceed into the 10 of Cups card with the wrong idea and focus on the external. And then that will come crashing down. The ruler of that card is Mars, of the 10 of Cups, is Mars, which is represented by the Tower card. The other energy associated with that is Pisces, which is represented by the Moon card, which is illusion. So I wanted to make sure that on this particular video with this card, that I put emphasis on two things, because I know that the RWS system, when people see this card and they pull this card out, they think, oh man, it's great, everything's gonna be wonderful. But really dig into the details of your life and look at the energy of the person that you're doing the reading for, or look at the energy of yourself when you're doing that reading, and reflect it inward and think about how you feel internally and the balance that you have on the inside, because there's a lot more of a deeper meaning to this card, and you can go off down the rabbit hole of an illusion if you don't look at it in the right way. However, these two cards are really good key cards, and alchemists, when they were looking at Mercury and assigning its energy back a long time ago, they looked at this card and they thought, because of the element Mercury and how it is, they thought that it was a state that was between matter, between solid, and between liquid. And so because they thought it was in that state, they thought it could transcend the earth realm and the spiritual realm. So they saw it as a key. They saw it as a way of really mastering your energy and turning it into gold. Gold is associated with the sun. And so Mercury is close to the sun. It is that in between, that messenger between us and the sun's energy. And so they saw this as a key. And it is a key also in the tarot system, mastering both the 9 of Cups and the 10 of Cups. Really bring about that energy in your life of these two cards, and there will be success. And so the secret, or the secret to the power of this pursuit of success, as illustrated in the Thoth system, is something that is deeper than we might think. But it's very wonderful and amazing once we really understand it. But I really felt the energy of this message. I really felt like that was what I needed to bring forward in this message. And it was through associating it with Mercury and looking at the Thoth system and the RWS system all together that really gave me a complete picture of it. And of course, my interpretations are my interpretations, and you can see this card in the way you choose to see it, depending on the other cards that are there, and depending on the energy that you feel at the particular time. But this just may be a perspective that I think could be added that might really shed some light and some perspective on the 10 of Cups. So thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Will. This is Atypical Tarot, and I'll see you next time.